Talk to me about the win from $100 in your pocket in the fat guy picture to where you are today. I mean, you're an entrepreneur. I think you're in the construction industry, if I recall.
I am. Yeah.
Yeah, can you talk a little
So
bit about that pivot?
yeah, sure, absolutely. I bought the dream, Richard. I was told that if I made decent grades and I went to play college football, that I would get a college degree. And I grew up in a pretty poor family, so that I quit playing baseball and basketball, and I went and played college football. And so I chose construction management. I was told it was 100% job placement, and that I would be sitting in Dallas with a truck allowance and an office making 75 to $100,000 a year. You know, probably starting off at like 60 and making my way to 100, having health care, 401k, and I didn't know any better. And I graduated college in 2009, so that didn't happen. Luckily for me, I read a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad. I don't think that that's something super original, but I
Mhm.
did read it my junior year in college. And so I kind of had it in the back of my head. And because I was forced into not really being able to get that job, which I'm actually really grateful for, because I think that would have been a scary thing to fall into. Um, I went and I dug ditches for a company called Austin Bridge and Road in a small town in North Louisiana. That job ended. I came home. I I waited tables at a churrascaria called Texas Day Brazil in Baton Rouge, and it was really honestly probably the shittiest time of my life. I was really struggling with uh, missing my college girlfriend. I broke up with Miss Louisiana at the time because I had monogamy issues and I didn't want to lie about it, or I didn't know how to confront it. And I didn't know how to be the person I am today. So I had that going on. I missed the girl. I had a shit job. Like the whole thing was completely fucked. It was probably the hardest time of my life.
Mhm.
And so,
How old were you at that point? Was that still around 25 or was that a little bit older?
yeah, yeah, it was right there at that point.
Okay.
I'd left the girl because my head was spinning and I wanted to explore my options, but I didn't know how to express that to her in a way that would um, keep the frame, if that makes sense. I just
Mhm.
didn't know what I didn't know. And I broke up with her, couldn't recover her. She actually met a 6'4" Brazilian guy. I will say that she did come back years later, and she kind of lied to me about things that were going on there, but I'll digress. But um, so I ended up getting the upper hand in the end, but I was kind of already this guy when that happened, if
Mhm.
that makes sense. You know how they are.
Mhm.
And so,
They always come back in the end.
yeah, yeah, man, yeah. So it was one of those situations where my fitness wasn't there, my money wasn't there. I didn't know what to do. Everything I've been told about what I should do was absolutely fucking wrong. You
Mhm.
know, I say all the time that at college, in my opinion,
What
unless
were
you're going to
the
be a doctor, it's a
what were
waste
the
of time.
biggest lies that you had to unplug from that were wrong? You know, because there's a lot of stuff that we as guys are fed, like a lot of beliefs that kind of plug you into the matrix, that don't really serve you. So, what were the biggest lies that that you had to unplug from?
Man, that you could live in a neighborhood the size of your boss's neighborhood by working for his company, you
Mhm.
know? um, Female nature, how love works, what love is, how women work. That's probably one of the biggest unplugs that I had to go through in my adult life, and that didn't happen until I was into my 30s.
I want to get to the women in a bit later, but I want to kind of talk more a bit about money and business right now. So,
Yeah,
yeah, speak a
business.
little bit more about like the unplugging when it came to money and wealth creation and setting your life
Absolutely,
up.
absolutely. I had a lot of advice when I first started my metal building company. Stay small,
What do
like
you
don't
mean by
go.
metal building? Is that those like the frameless, like the big aluminum buildings where you can drive trucks through or boats, like the big
Yeah,
storage
so think
units?
think Costco.
Yeah.
We do a lot of Costco's airplane hangars. So when you're sitting on the tarmac and
Okay.
you look out and you see the airplanes flying, kind of going into the big buildings, the storage buildings,
Hmm.
we build those.
Okay.
Walmart's, big rooms to go, big steel structures.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I was told to grow slow, stay small, don't let it get too big. You go out of business. But I actually found that in the end, it's like if I wasn't constantly growing, I was dying
Hmm.
you know so I really had to be in a position where I would grow revenue, because what would happen is I would be scared that we couldn't do the work that I won. But if there was no work because it would rain or jobs would get delayed or whatever, I'd end up losing my men. Or worse, I would pay my men to stay to sit at home waiting on a job. And so one of the things that really helped me was getting over worrying about growing too big and really kind of going after it and really creating business systems. I did a lot of coaching with E-Myth, that Robert E. Gerber book, E-Myth. I did a year and a half coaching with them at about 27 when we started to get to about around 2 million in revenue. And it really helped me out. I built a lot of systems, put a lot of things in place, and really kind of went against everything that people were telling me. And my dad, actually, not that he was a business person, but he would constantly be telling me, son, aren't you worried about growing the company too big? Shouldn't you be worried? Don't you think that you're going to grow too big? When is enough? Isn't enough enough? And that was probably somewhere around 1 million, 2. And the problem with that was always simply like, yeah, but if I think I have this job and it gets pushed back 3 months, well, I have to pay payroll to those guys. So all the profit I would have made on that job, I'll lose. And I constantly be creating ways for revenue and just adding men. So I'd have this core capacity of men, and I would have to find ways around it, like subcontract jobs out. So which led me to have to create kind of scripts for negotiating and sales and finding new manpower, new systems to find more guys. We constantly are bidding jobs, but we're constantly recruiting every day, because I always tell my people, it's kind of like if sales are on this side, finding manpower on this side, and that project meets in the middle. And if I let either one of those legs get bigger than the other, then I will find myself in trouble.
Do you have any issues right now? Like you still run the business, the metal building business?
Yes. Yeah.
Do you have any problems right now with staffing issues? Because one of the things that I've seen here, I've got a few friends that run some businesses in construction, and they have a real hard time attracting and retaining competent workers. Workers are either not interested, or they're lazy, or they call in sick, or they got like issues. They got addictive personalities, and they're addicted to drugs or stuff like that. Do you have any issues with your businesses? And if you do, like, how do you solve those?
Yeah. So it's the biggest problem that all of us have. I think a lot of our success comes from our ability to navigate through it. I have scripts for everybody that calls in. I have a very specific way that I'll probably never say out loud that we find these men and talk to these men and kind of caress a relationship between us and those men during the pre-interview process, the interview process, and even when they're actually on working for us. We treat our guys, and I believe this, if a guy is working for me, he's buying me. So
what do you mean by that?
Well, so for example, like, a lot of times in construction, you'll go to a client and you'll tell them all the reasons why, and you'll treat them well, and you'll do all these certain things. It's not so much that we baby or pamper them in, but we kind of understand their position, and we try to do things to keep them buying into the company and coming back. Simple things, birthday parties, maybe, and even there's times where, I'll turn up and start putting money in their pocket, because what they do is very dangerous. I'll take them to get beer. I treat them, a certain way. And I've got guys that would absolutely kill for me. And then I have guys that are kind of distant, maybe mercenaries in a way. Mm-hmm. But that problem right there is the number one problem in construction. And it's not just in my trade, it's in every trade, and it's nationally. It's something that when I go to my board meetings for the Metal Building Contractors Directors Association, it is the number one thing that is brought up. Because when you look at it, the American kid doesn't want to do it. I feel like because of social media, if a guy says he's working with his hands, it's not appealing to women. The internet's basically told him he failed because he's not drop shipping from beach selling Amazon. It's true. It's absolutely true. So it's not a very sexy thing
I'm agreeing with you, my man.
It's not a very sexy thing to do. Like, it's a hard pitch. It's a hard pitch.
Yeah, I've said before, man, like if you've got a woman that's looking at a guy that's a junior lawyer, at a law firm making 60, 70 grand a year versus a guy that might be like running a plumbing company, and he's got plumbers that work for him and he's making $250,000 a year, like he's paying himself well. She's probably going to pick the lawyer just because he looks like better arm candy, right?
Yeah, it's true. Look, when I first got started, I've never really had issues with women like in a major way. Especially when I was kind of already started the company, I was on my way up, I had lost some weight,
Mhm.
I looked like a good prospect. Um, but I'll say there's nothing sexy about saying I'm a steel erector or I hang steel. And just like you're saying with the plumber, there's nothing really sexy about it. And it's about the way we make our money too. You know, you're working with your hands, you have calluses, you're on job site, you're wearing boots. I would constantly have a set of boots to go on job sites and a hard hat, and then close to go to the bank to beg for money so I can cover my payrolls.
Mhm.
But it's not the most sexy thing in the world. But if you get it right, you can make really good money, really good. So
Mhm.
I always say that construction was the only way that we knew how to make doctor money in boots. And that's literally true. I was literally a redheaded stepchild to a guy that did metal buildings. He would do 30 by 40s in backyards, and that's how I was kind of conscious of the situation.